Welcome to the Tax Hour podcast. I'm Nick Wright, your host and head of corporate tax here at Jerroms Miller Specialist Tax. Today we're diving into the heart of SME growth, resilience and tax strategy in today's ever-evolving economic climate. And joining me is someone who's reshaping the landscape of financial services for SMEs across the UK, Warren Mead, CEO of Summer. Warren's journey is nothing short of remarkable. After a successful career at KPMG, he founded Summer with a bold vision to champion SMEs by combining the deep local insight of regional firms with national scale and expertise.
Great to be here.
Let's jump straight in. A couple of quick-fire questions, and then we'll really get into the core topics. So, first and foremost, for those who don't know Summer, give us the elevator pitch. What makes Summer distinctive from other accountancy firms?
Well, Summer was developed particularly with SMEs, owner-managed businesses in mind. We are community-based accountants. So we are there for the community and to serve the community. And we're doing that across the UK on a national scale. And I think that's really what makes us different. It's that combination of a community-based organisation, but with national scale, which means we can bring a whole host of brilliant services to our clients, technology to our clients, and we're able to invest in our people and our colleagues in a different way.
Okay, excellent. And set the scene. Where were you, literally or figuratively, when you decided that, okay, there's a gap in the market for SMEs, and why was Summer the way forward?
So it was actually in the depths of COVID, and I was sat at home. The kids were downstairs being homeschooled. Remember that nightmare?
Mine was still at nursery. It was brilliant. Just put Paw Patrol on and leave her to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just had this view that owner-managed businesses were being generally underserved. And what I had seen was there were a whole bunch of really good regional accountants like Jerroms who were doing brilliant work for their clients, but there were a whole host of other people who were exiting the market. If you go back 20 years ago and you were an SME and you had a challenge, you could go to your local bank manager, you could go to your local lawyer, accounting firms. There are a whole host of ways to get support. And gradually and slowly, they'd all left the market. And it felt to me like now was the time to really double down on helping that owner-managed business segment of the community.
Yeah. I mean, I've got an example of that straight away. I actually took a photo. I was going to put it on LinkedIn. So I bank with NatWest, and NatWest has closed its Redditch store where I live. And there was I think it was Nationwide did a little advert to say NatWest may be leaving you, but we're not, kind of thing. I was like, can you really put an advert out that aggressively? But that's exactly what's kind of happened, isn't it? A lot of these local, even if NatWest is a UK-wide bank, but a lot of these local branches are not there to serve people anymore. That's quite. It's happening on the high street. It's happening amongst accountancy firms as well, isn't it? So let's talk a little bit more about Summer, because of course I actually did a bit of research before this, and 2024 there were 5.5 million SMEs, 8,000 large businesses. Now I don't always look at stats very much, but to me that was a crazy amount. So pretty much all the businesses, 99% of the businesses in the UK are SMEs, and need that support that perhaps they can't get from people like Big Four or something. Yeah. So clearly, not just a gap in the market, but also there's a lot of people there needing that.
It's a huge market, and it makes up about half of the economy in terms of jobs, in terms of GDP, those smaller businesses. And really, without those businesses flourishing, then the economy doesn't flourish.
Yeah.
So when I think about Summer, and I think about our purpose, why are we here? Well, we help our clients to prosper and to have to make better business decisions, to make the right decisions, to pay the right tax, whatever it might be. And that is a really valuable thing for the communities we work in.
Yeah.
I always think of accountants as superheroes. As a sort of the underrated superhero, and I think we should celebrate the work that accountants do.
Yeah, I think accountants are, and a lot of the time, I mean, I'm technically an accountant because I qualified as an accountant, but now I call myself a tax advisor. But a lot of the time, you find actually accountants almost become sort of this, not just the accounting support for a business. Especially small business owners who maybe don't feel like they've got somebody, maybe they're married, but their partner doesn't do sort of a business owner. An accountant can be someone to lean on.
Absolutely.
For those just the business support, not necessarily just, let's prepare a set of accounts at the end of the year kind of thing. It's a lot broader than that, I think.
Quite right. When we're at our best, we are helping our clients make those really important decisions. Do I open up a new store? Do I invest in new equipment in my factory? Do I change my supply chain overseas? All of those things. They're big decisions. It's incredibly hard to make them on your own. And our best people are the ones that are doing that and helping our clients flourish by making the right decisions.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start off with your journey. Who is Warren Mead before Summer? And what was the goal in building this firm? Tell us a bit more about Summer as an accountancy practice, now top 13, which is quite incredible, really, when you think where we started. But I'll let you explain where it all started.
So I start with me. I was with a Big Four firm for a very long time, and in terms of me personally, I live on the south coast near Brighton with my husband, my 2 kids. I spend my weekends, frankly, watching football. Getting very, very cold, and then weekdays I'm all around the country. We've got 65 offices now around the country, from as far north as Dundee to as far south as Plymouth. And so I'm on the road a lot. And it's been an amazing few years. We're only three and a bit years old at Summer. And it's been an incredible exponential growth. I think people have really kind of been set alight, if you like, by what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build. Yeah.
I think what's good about Summer, when you're talking to a client and say, look, Summer is a top 13, is that you're saying we're only 3.5 years old as a group, but as individuals, Jerroms is over 50 years old. So you've also got that breadth and the length of service to the local communities within each hub.
Yes.
And I think that kind of what resonates very well with clients as well. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all about the success and how quickly Summer has grown to become so prominent in the market. What about through that journey, through that 3.5 years, has anything failed? Is there anything you look back and go, I may have done that a bit differently? What would I change? Or is it all just everything's brilliant?
Look, first off, the success is a team success. And I genuinely mean that. With 2,500 colleagues, each and every one of my colleagues plays a really important role in what we've been able to achieve together. And so I put all of the success down to my colleagues, and all of the failures are down to me. So, of course, there have been areas where I've wanted us to grow, and we haven't been able to grow in those areas yet. So we're still working on Ireland, for example. I'd love us to be able to do for our clients in Ireland what we do for our clients in the UK. We're not there yet. I also believe very strongly in a sort of culture of experimentation. Yeah. And so what I try and do and what we try and set up is, if we're going to try something, rather than spend 6 months planning it and building out a PowerPoint presentation to explain why it's the right thing to do, we'll just go and try it. We'll trial it with a few of our colleagues or with a few of our clients, and see how clients respond to it. And we've done quite a few of those different experiments in different areas, and half of them have been brilliant, and the client feedback's been amazing, and we've started to roll those things out. And other parts of it have been less successful, and we've changed or adapted it. So I think business is about making lots of very, very small mistakes and learning from them, and that's great. And that's really how I encourage us all to behave. whilst avoiding the big mistakes, because those are the ones you don't want to make. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, and I guess if you know you're doing something as a trial, it's not like you're doing something, this is going to be successful and it goes wrong and it's all dreadful. If you're doing something as a trial, it's almost, there's an expectation that this could fail, but it also could be brilliant.
You're doing it to learn.
Yeah.
It's not about the end result. It's about what you learn through the process.
Okay. So summer now is a top 13.
Yes.
Or is 13th, coming from nothing 3.5 years ago. What was the goal when this started? Was it, we want to be top 13, we want to be top 10, or was it more around just the business model and however big that makes us grow?
Yeah,
we're happy.
The size is just an outcome.
Yeah,
it's just what happens through what you do. And the goal for me was always about our purpose, and it was always about making a real difference to our clients. And so, my work will be done when I feel like we're doing everything we possibly can to help our clients, and at the same time that our colleagues and our teams are enjoying it and having having the same passion for what we do as I do, and the rest will just follow. So, and there's lots more to be done on that.
And I was going to say, because I think it's something that obviously having that culture from the top is important, but it's also having that culture filtered down to every single member of the team, because it's no good saying this is my passion if you've got a group of 5 people below you who really are just coming to work and just going home not feeling happy, isn't it? So it's developing that culture, I think, that's really important within.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so talking about rankings, and I'll move on from rankings in a bit.
That's all right.
But sometimes I get the impression from people that they almost shy away from firms if they think, they're top 10, they're top 5, they're almost too big, or they're not going to serve sort of my needs in the same way that maybe a local accountant would. So how does Summer overcome this in terms of, and I think, to be honest, we've kind of touched on this already in terms of the local hubs. So maybe if we can expand a little bit more on those hubs and how we achieve that kind of outcome for clients.
Yeah. Well, look, if you're a haulage company right here in Solihull, you are dealing with Jerroms.
Yeah.
And Jerroms knows the market in the Black Country and in the Midlands. It knows its clients, what the client needs are, and the people at Jerroms are completely empowered to do the right thing for that client.
Yeah.
In the same way that in Scotland we trade as EQ, and my colleagues in Scotland understand the Scottish market. So the key to it is we're preserving the things that make the regional firm special.
Yeah.
But at the same time, providing those regional firms with all the tools and all the equipment they need to give absolutely market-leading advice from a firm of national scale.
Mm.
And so that means that if that haulage firm in Solihull needs to pull on a VAT expert from Scotland or a R&D tax credit expert from Belfast, we bring that to bear to that client.
Yeah, and I know I've seen that in practice. So you obviously know Jerroms Miller, and we do sort of reconstruction work, but we very much focus on corporate. We focus on the reconstructions, the succession planning, MBOs, that type of thing. And so when you have a client who's suddenly got an international element to it, then we can just go. And as it happens, we went to Carpenter Box on that specific one. So it's almost like, as long as your team within each hub have an awareness level of when you need to draw on that expertise, the fact that you might not have somebody who's specialist in that area almost doesn't matter.
Right.
And I think that's what's so crucial, and to me, what sets it aside from the other sort of PE firms who just are just trade as one brand kind of thing. that being able to just draw on that, and there's really no barriers. I think that's kind of the key. Sometimes you can think, well, yes, they're all within summer, but they are still different companies, and therefore, do they want to go and give that work to them? Whereas to us, it's very much just, all you're doing is adding value to the client.
That's it. We put the clients at the heart of it. We are one. Actually, you're quite right. I think the thing that clients value the most is, firstly, they want to deal with people who are local, who they respect, and who are experts in their craft.
Yeah.
And we make sure that is at the heart of the proposition. And they don't care about brand, and they don't care about whether we bring in other people or not. They just want the right solution for them. And our culture is to make sure that we deliver that for our clients. And then it's my job in the background, of course, to make sure that everything's really well joined up and connected, and that we've got single sets of technology and policy and all those kind of things. But that's not important to our clients. Right?
No.
And so that's why we operate in that way.
Yeah. But I think things like the collaboration. So we've fairly recently started, say, an EOT committee, for example. And I'm using EOT as an example because that's one that I'm actually on.
Yeah.
But I know there's plenty of others that we've done. And I think things like that really add to that collaboration. So it's not just... And then obviously we've got a tax conference coming up in November for thankfully it's in Birmingham, so it's nice and local for me. But, everybody from the UK summer hubs are coming down. And it's things like that also improve that collaborative, if you know people. Because as you were saying, it's the same with clients. If you're local, some clients just want to come and see you, look at, whites of the eyes type of thing. And it goes the same for staff, I think. Being able to say, I know this person, I know we can rely on them, that it's not going to be sort of a disjointed effort, I think is absolutely crucial.
People want to work with people they trust.
Yeah.
And trust is born out of spending time together.
Yeah. It's so important, yeah. Let's talk about SMEs, because we've kind of said, that is the focus of summer. So in terms of SMEs, do you think there's a specific obstacles for SMEs facing that maybe other businesses don't? The obvious one to me was, when I was kind of preparing for this, was thinking, Big Four, a lot of people are thinking affordability kind of thing. So to me, that's perhaps an obstacle which we've already overcome because we kept that local presence, and we're not become private equity owned and double your prices overnight kind of thing. That just doesn't happen. So are there any other obstacles that the SME client base specifically face?
I think the last 10 years has been incredibly difficult for owner-managed businesses. And if you put in Brexit, which has been dreadful for business, let's be honest about that. You can be, you can have other political views about Brexit, but in terms of business, it's been dreadful. COVID was really tough. Then you had the kind of supply chain issues, and you had war for talent and rising interest rates, cost of living crisis. Then, you had flip-flop economic policy from all sorts of different governments that came and went, and we have had 5 prime ministers in 5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
All of that stuff creates an unimaginable amount of uncertainty. And running a business with that degree of uncertainty is incredibly, incredibly difficult. And so that's why it's really, really important to get great advice.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, certainly I've seen since COVID in particular, that our clients are leaning on us more and more to help navigate through that uncertain political, economic environment that we're in. And I think, certainly very relevant right now, a couple of things. One is access to finance. Access to finance for SMEs is really challenging.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard. By the way, we help clients with that, and we've got a number of ways of doing that. But also, in particular, thinking about the next budget, and we may get into this, and a number of the challenges that could create for SME clients. Certainly, the last budget was very difficult for them.
Yeah,
very difficult indeed.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about financing, because I think, as you say, that is crucial for any business, obviously. From my perspective in sort of the tax world, financing means I can help people with EIS and SEIS incentive schemes, because that's, if you can find an investor who's willing to put money in, it can give them huge tax advantages, and then the business can raise money. But there's a lot more to it as well, isn't there, in terms of external sources of financing?
Yes. Yeah. But again, if you go back 10 years, 20 years, the way that people access finance was very different. It was more community-based.
Yeah.
So as an SME, you would have relationships with local bankers. They would know your business.
Mm-hmm.
They would know its reputation. They would walk past the restaurant and know whether it was busy on a Saturday night or not, because it was in their community.
Yeah.
And therefore, that meant that people could make more qualitative decisions about access to finance, whether it's simple bank debt or things, that are more complicated. Sadly, those days are long gone. And so what you need to have great access to finance now is great data.
Yeah.
You have to be able to prove that your business plan is going to be successful. And without great access to data, strong financial discipline, a very strong eye on cash flow. I mean, I think far too many SMEs focus on revenue and not cash flow. Maybe we'll come to that. These are the sorts of things that SMEs need to be focused more on. And in addition to that, of course, there's a whole load of things that you could expect policymakers, local government regulators to do to make access to finance for SMEs easier. And I think there's more that they could do on that as well.
Okay, well, there was a few things you actually said there that I was like, let's pick that out. And now I'm like, hang on a second, where should we start? Let's talk about cash flow then, because I never remember who originally said this, but the phrase cash is king. And I think that's just, that will never change in business.
Yeah.
A business can survive with, depending on whatever revenue, their accounting profit is what it is, but without cash, being able to pay suppliers, being able to pay employees. What can businesses do? What are businesses doing that's really, enabling them to focus on that area?
Well, I think the first thing is to look at your business model, because lots of SMEs have business models that have very long working capital cycles.
Yeah.
And there are ways to accelerate that by just changing your business model a little bit. And so you may have seen this. When you go to the dentist now, it used to be you paid as you left.
Mm.
My dentist I have to pay when I make the appointment now, right? Which is often 3 months ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that's 3 months of working capital funding that they're able to find.
Yeah.
And clients pay it because it's easy and it's made easy for them to pay it. You'll also see an uptick in restaurants taking deposits.
Mm.
Right? Part of that is about people not turning up, but it's also about cash flow.
Yeah.
And so, if you're in a retail environment, just think about so for service businesses, think about taking upfront payment. Think about your business model. Then for other types of businesses where you're not able to change the business model in that way, then think about different types of finance and access to different types of finance. Invoice discounting and factoring and all those kind of things are often useful tools, although sometimes expensive.
Yeah.
But the key thing really is to have your accountant focus more on the future and less on the past. So get them to do cash flow forecasting for you. Make sure you've got a set of early warning signals. Yeah. So that if it looks like you're going to run out of cash, 6 months in advance, not 6 days in advance when it's too late to do anything about it. If I had one bit of advice for people, it's make sure you do your cash flow forecasts. And if you don't know how to do them, get an accountant to help.
So how is sort of the change? I mean, certainly from a tax perspective, making tax digital, everything else is a significant transformation. How does sort of what we now have available help with that? Because there's so many programs out there, software providers. Do they focus? Because I think when you said about the idea of just an accountant sort of just looking at the past kind of thing, that is almost the traditional, what a lot of business owners might actually think of an accountant as someone who just does your year-end accounts, what's happened in the last year, do your tax return, job done, see you next year kind of thing. So how does how can we really, push forward with that, giving clients access to that information? Is software a key element?
It can help. But of course, the software is only as good as the data you feed into it. And it tends to use the past as a predictor of the future.
Yeah.
So yes, it can give you, it can get you so far. But then what you have to do is have a conversation about it, a qualitative conversation that helps you understand why the past might not be a good guide for the future.
Yeah.
And why things, and more importantly then, what you're going to do about the information that you've seen. Is it that you need to change your standard payment terms to 30 days instead of 60?
Yeah.
Right? And running through all those different options. Our senior people are all equipped. Right? They've got 20, 30, 40 years of experience in dealing with those things. And, really the thing is to pull on their time, their experience, and make sure that if there's clients watching this, demand of our people that kind of conversation, because I know our people are trying to do that, and they want to have that time with you to talk it through.
Yeah. So as you say, it's the worst possible thing to get in a situation where 6 days down the line, you're going to run out of money, and it's just too late to do anything, isn't it?
Yes.
So the sooner you get this sort of information and this advice, the better.
Yeah. And think of it on the positive side as well, Nick, because also if you're able to reduce your working capital, that gives you funds to invest. Right? Yeah. That might actually provide you with enough cash to go and open up a second site, or to invest in a bit of new plant, or whatever it is that you might otherwise have not been able to get funding for. So it's a really hugely important part of running a business.
Yeah. And admittedly, not all businesses are going to be in the same boat to be able to change payment terms as easily as others might. But I feel like your example of the dentist, how many clients would they actually lose
None.
by changing that in reality?
Not one.
Yeah. Because people are just like, okay, this is the new way, I'm going to have to pay it anyway. It is what it is kind of thing. I can imagine manufacturing, it might be sometimes a little bit more. Well, I don't deal with that. I do tax, obviously. So
yeah.
But yeah, I imagine
that's right. Where you've got very big, where your customers are very large, it becomes disproportionately difficult to make those kind of changes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the idea of cash in business has always been at the forefront, isn't it? And you kind of question why have accountants not done that sooner, really focused on that. So, okay, let's talk a little bit more about digital transformation as well then. So in the accounting sort of world, there does seem to be a huge amount of access to different levels of things. So how is Summer dealing with that? Are they are they using sort of recommending one thing, or are they sort of saying you do whatever works for you and we'll work around you kind of thing? How do we focus on digital transformation in that way?
So what we're doing at Summer is really trying to create a standard stack of technology across all of our firms.
Right.
Now we don't do that overnight, because that would be utter chaos. We do it in a very, very measured and sustained way over a period of time. So, for example, we have a common HR system across all of our 2,500 people. We have a common audit methodology across the way we do audits across all of our hubs would be another good example. And the reason we're doing that is because it will provide client benefit.
Yeah.
So if I think about, if you think about the vast majority of accounting practices out there, their ability to invest then in the next generation, the next kind of generation of technology becomes really challenging. But we've got the scale that we can put in absolutely state-of-the-art technology that means our people are able to work faster and more efficiently. But then we're able to give our clients the benefit of that by doing more of the things that I was talking about earlier. by being able to provide more advice, by being more forward-looking, such that the compliance bits of what we do can be done more effectively and efficiently. And that's why we're running that. AI is part of the answer. You can't have a conversation like this without talking about AI. But I do think that's about how we work with it. If I use tax as an example, my understanding is that the best personal tax AI will get the tax returns 50% right. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't submit a tax return that was 50% right. So
it's the same as exams, isn't it?
Yeah.
You kind of, to pass a CTA exam, you have to get 50% right. And you kind of think, well, actually, you need to be 100% right if you're submitting a advice note to a client kind of thing.
You do. And I have to confess, when I did my tax exams as part of the, maybe I shouldn't say this on the podcast, I got 55%, which was exactly the pass mark.
Well, you did enough work to pass then, didn't you?
I did enough work to pass. But I'm just conscious I'm on a tax podcast, and I'm following the footsteps of some real legends in tax, and I am not one of them.
Well, it's how I think the exams seem to go. I mean, I've seen so many people sort of just scraping by because they've done enough work to get it, which in the tax world, that's or in the exam world, I think that's all you need. But when it comes to the advice, submitting tax returns, HMRC scrutiny, there isn't a margin for error.
There isn't. No. 100% is the only right answer.
I do. Let's talk a bit about AI then, because I use it a reasonable amount.
Mm-hmm.
I have a note taker on my Teams calls. So when we're talking about sort of efficiency and actually giving me the extra time to actually devote to genuine advice and clients, and or just supporting the team, because of course, they're going away doing the work, and then they might have 5 or 6 questions to come back to me, and so sort of my time becomes the most valuable thing. Hopefully, my knowledge as well. But so just something like a note taker on a Teams call means I'm not sitting there scribbling down notes with my head down like this, and all people can see is my head, the top of my head. And then after the call, if I've kind of thought, I'm sure they said something about this, but I can't remember exactly what they said, I've got it on a note taker.
Yeah.
And so the note taker itself and just transcribing a Teams call allows you to focus on the client, but also afterwards, the note taker, you can ask questions of it and say, okay, well, what was discussed about this? And so those bits that are almost the bits around the edges that aren't the important bits, you can do in 5 minutes instead of what might take me half an hour to then scribble down, then after the call, type it all up because no one can read my writing, and then have them read that. And so I think, AI for that type of thing is hugely valuable.
Absolutely.
What else do I do that I absolutely love? So I do a lot of article writing, and I know what I want to say, but sometimes I'm not so good at articulating it. Mm-hmm. So just being able to, write all the technical stuff down that I want, and then put it into AI and say, make this read more legibly, more clearly, and and things like that. I mean, I haven't yet really given it anything that I think has produced any decent tax advice, though.
No.
So it's very useful sort of for the efficiency side, which is exactly what you were saying about, the use of not just AI, but just the software to allow individuals to focus on the client and let the digital side of things sort of take care of the menial tasks, if you like.
And the other issue with AI is, of course, it has inherent bias in it. And there's been plenty of examples of it almost wanting to please the person it's dealing with.
I've had that.
And creating tax cases that never existed.
And HMRC manuals that don't exist.
And all sorts of things that don't exist. Because it's pulling on data from everywhere, and with very little, with imperfect algorithms, let's put it that way, to know whether the data is of a good quality that it's pulling.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of danger with it as well. But I think you're right. As an efficiency tool, I think it's going to be a game changer for us and for the industry. But I don't see accountants being replaced anytime soon.
No, I think it's more a change in the accountant as an individual and what they do than actually replacing them. But that does mean, there might be some people quite settled of just doing some data entry for whatever they might be doing, tax return, just data entry, and rather than actually thinking about the advice side of things.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to change their role?
Yes. I mean, absolutely. But, I'm old enough to remember when I started work, we didn't have computers. And I remember when we got the first computers and it had something called Lotus 123, which was...
I know of it, but I never used it.
Which was a spreadsheet.
Right.
And what it meant was we used to have these calculators with rolls of paper, right? And you had to tap away and it would,
Yeah.
And it was, that's going to replace what we do. No, it's just going to change how we work.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. It will change how we work.
Yeah. I had the same view actually when Making Tax Digital was first announced, which I think was about 2014. I wasn't even at Jerroms then. I was at my previous firm, and I remember having a conversation with the tax partner then, kind of saying, "Does this mean sort of the portfolio of 300 clients? I'm not really going to have to do any work for them," kind of thing. And, what's the future of? Because at that point I was in personal tax. What's the future of the personal tax side and my job? And actually, 10 years down the line, we've got more personal tax advisors than ever.
Absolutely. So. Because it gets more and more complicated.
Yeah.
And for every, I remember again when I started, you used to have these, the Butterworths, is that the books?
Yeah.
And so I remember when I started in my old job, like there would be like 3 of them stacked up across the desk from the person I worked who happened to be a tax person. And then by the time I finished, they had like 50 of the books. And that was just 1 year, right? And the legislation grows and grows and grows. And with the complexity, increases the need for advice and support from people like us.
It's actually interesting you say that. It made me think of is the Andrew Hubbard, who's the editor-in-chief of Taxation magazine. I've got on LinkedIn a while ago, he posted, I think it was around the 60s, the two books were sort of a few hundred pages long. And then he posted the next one, which is we now have 8 books, all of which are like, really chunky, as big a book as you can possibly get. Yeah. That's we're only talking about tax here, but that's how the tax landscape has changed and the complexity of it. And
it's not just tax. The way that regulation has changed is the same. AML regulation. Right? GDPR, much more complicated. Yeah, we live in a much more complicated world. Which again means that there are more things that can go wrong, but also more opportunity.
Yeah. And I think that's quite key, isn't it? That when we're talking about things like, when we're talking about assisting a client, you're no longer just preparing a set of accounts and a tax return for them. They've also got things like GDPR questions or AML or all of these other things adding complexity, not just to our industry, but to most of our clients as well. Yeah. And also, we're so much more international now, and there's a lot more cross-border things. And as you've already mentioned, Brexit, how things change there. And I know VAT and customs especially had a lot of work out of Brexit. So I'm sure they didn't mind Brexit too much with all the work and extra fees they got out of that one. But yeah, I mean, there's always something, isn't there? There's always something going to change, which therefore brings in more regulation, or just the way the economy is. The economy seems to be getting so much more complex, meaning we need more tax legislation.
Yeah.
Of course, they did have the Office for Tax Simplification, but they disbanded that a few years ago as well. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about summer. We've talked about kind of the idea that actually SMEs aren't just at the forefront of summer, they're at the forefront of the UK economy, basically, aren't they? So as this is the tax hour, we should probably spend a little bit of time talking about tax. And without getting technical, let's talk about more the client side of things. And now I haven't yet mentioned publicly on LinkedIn, in a seminar that I've done, a webinar, I've not yet once mentioned Angela Rayner. So this is the first time I'm going to do it, purely because so many people talked about Angela Rayner and the whole SDLT problem. But I think it's actually quite a good case study to kind of say, look, Angela Rayner, a public figure, did she do something deliberately? Did she do something accidentally? It's a good case study to show that the level of advice that's needed. So the Angela Rayner story was that obviously deputy PM, that she and bought second, third house or whatever it was, didn't pay the right amount to SDLT. Then there was the lawyers had said something, but had kind of said, but we're not advising you on this. You might want to get your own advice. And basically, whether she deliberately didn't get the advice or accidentally, it kind of put her in a lot of trouble, didn't it? So when it comes to clients as well, if you either, and I see this a lot in practice, if you don't have a client, or if you have a client who has an accountant who simply just doesn't know certain rules because the tax system is so complex, maybe they're looking at one specific point, like I look at corporation tax or corporate taxes all the time, maybe not actually realising, there's an IHT issue to that point. And it's kind of the same with Angela Rayner, wasn't it? Maybe she didn't think the SDLT point was complex enough that she needed the other advice. I'm not commenting on that. So I guess I guess my question is, how do clients who in the small and medium enterprise world who might not have an accountant who has that level of expertise access that level of expertise, which may not be from one person? It might need, as I already mentioned, Carpenter Box in the summer group have done a lot of international work for me. Mm-hmm. How do clients actually go about accessing that when it needs specialists in numerous different areas?
Yeah. So, first off, ignorance is not a form of defence.
I think that's the official term of HMRC as well.
For anyone.
Yeah.
But, you would think that someone who is competent enough to be a senior public official ought to have the level of competence so they can manage their tax affairs properly.
I think that's the general consensus, isn't it? Whether it was deliberate or not.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Genuinely it's irrelevant. But it's, as you say, it's a really good case study because we all don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And it's really important, I think, to think of your accountant as the quarterback. To use a bit of an American analogy.
You're going to have to work with me on that because I don't know American football.
Well, the idea of a quarterback is they distribute the ball around the field, right? They're the key linchpin that holds everything together and kind of directs the game.
Yeah.
And your accountant needs to be a quarterback, and they need to pull in the right people with the right advice, and that does require often lots of different specialist skills to get to the right answer. So one of the things that we're very careful on in summer is that we have all those skills and expertise. And on the rare occasion that we don't, we just won't act for the client, right? Because it wouldn't be appropriate to do that. Mm-hmm. But equally, for firms that, if your accountant doesn't offer that, then they can either have your accountant contact someone who does. And for example, Jerroms Miller, does lots of work for other accountants who are great quarterbacks and bring in the right expertise when they need them. Or you can separately commission that, but it's just not worth the risk to not do it properly.
I think even before we were a part of Summer, that Jerroms Miller's ethos in terms of tax was we've always, because of sort of what we do outside of just the practical advising clients, and we get to know a lot of people through the podcast and the webinars and the seminars and things. You can just have a client come to you going, I need this, I need help with this. No, well, that's not me. I can't help you at all, but here's X, Y, or Z who might be able to help you.
Yeah.
And I think the Summer group has helped that a lot, because sometimes if you have a client coming to you, you want to be helpful, so you can sort of say, here's a name of somebody who can help. But that's kind of the end of it. You don't really hear anything else. Whereas if you've got a client who maybe you can assist them a little bit, but actually the bulk of the work needs to be is an international or a trust or whatever it might be, you can act. It's so much easier to be collaborative in that way, because of, as you already said, the systems and centralizing systems. So we have a Teams channel, which normally IT security and all that, so that's locked down to an intern. You can only have Teams within Jerroms, whereas now we can have that within Summer.
Yeah.
So we have a a Teams channel for the EOT committee I mentioned. We've got a Teams channel for all of the tax people within Summer. And you can literally just say, okay, I've got this copy and paste a query that's coming from a client. Anyone want to help with this kind of thing? Because I can't.
Yeah.
And I think it's that's not just providing access to those people, but it's the speed as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you might refer something and then 2 weeks later you follow it up because you haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
And all of
and
those.
The client still gets to deal with you because you're still quarterbacking it. You're still the front person, the person that they trust, right? And that's exactly how our model works. Yeah,
I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Kind of the trust element is crucial to everything. I mean, we're not talking small figures most of the time. Clients' tax problems are probably 5-6 figures size. So it's so crucial that you have that trust, because I mean, the best advice, talking about AI as well, I had a client come to me, ask, they'd used clearly ChatGPT to actually develop a structure, and then they came to me saying, can you review this? And I initially went through, I mean, obviously I had nothing to do with them before, so I sort of looked through it and said, well, there's 3, 4, 5, 6 problems here. But if you want me to help, let's get on a Teams call, let's actually understand what you want, and then we can sort of discuss the solution. To which they then came back with, okay, thanks for identifying those problems. Here's the next effort that ChatGPT's done. Right, so 3 or 4 emails in, 3 or 4 structures from ChatGPT, and I kind of had to, I try and be as helpful as I can, but in this case, I just had to say, look, and not in these words, but I'm very happy to advise you, but not ChatGPT. So which one do you want? And actually, to be fair, they then said, let's get on a Teams call and let's do it. And we did the advice, and they were very happy. But I think that's the other area that AI, it kind of makes me question whether it devalues some of what we do. Because yes, we can pick holes in it. But had that client just thought, ChatGPT said that, it must be right, and gone off and acted on it, then, well, there's two results to that. There's either HMRC come knocking and it all gets unravelled very badly for them, or HMRC never even picks it up because they're so under-resourced that they can't look at every single thing. And then actually there's less people actually thinking they need the specialist advice because they got away with it the first time, kind of thing.
Yeah, but think about AI use the other way, right? Because what's gonna happen is HMRC, but other regulatory authorities as well, are increasingly going to use AI to detect the use of AI.
Yeah.
And they will be able to automatically scan all of these submissions and documents and pre-clearances and things like that and go, here's one with a red flag because I can tell that AI has created that. And then what happens is the AI on this side tries to learn how to evade being caught by the other AI on that side, and it becomes like this war of attrition as to how it happens. But I think with the development of technology, actually, I would have a counter view. I think that there's going to be more challenge. There's going to be more use of data from HMRC and others to identify where people are not declaring all of their income or misrepresenting parts of their P&L, or structures or whatever it might be, such that I think we'll see a lot of things being challenged at a first level by technology.
Yeah, so by HMRC having the technology, and
exactly.
Of course, they're going to be investing huge amounts in that kind of thing. That actually it makes it very easy for them to spot the problems. And of course, then it becomes a question of how they're going to resource.
Yes, particularly when you start getting MTD and things being, the more electronic submission of data. Yeah.
So it is genuinely interesting to see how things, because the speed of which this is moving as well.
Yeah.
AI wasn't even a thing a few years ago. Or if it was, I didn't really know much about it.
It was called process automation and robotics a few years ago.
Well, see, I didn't even know that. And let's go back to Summer a little bit. In terms of, obviously, we have different people in sort of international tax or corporate or inheritance tax. Are there any other areas within Summer that kind of are a particular area of focus, or any? I mean, you mentioned sort of a focus on moving into Ireland, but any sort of areas? I know we've got Summer Agri, for instance, for agricultural. which is a huge thing because I think the changes for farmers recently.
Yes, yeah,
that was quite well timed. I don't know whether you meant to time it that way, but it was very well timed. So, are there any other areas of focus for summer?
Well, in terms of clients, our aim is to really to serve all owner-managed businesses across the UK.
Right.
And we've got lots of strengths. So you've already mentioned agriculture as one of our particular strengths. I would look at medical. We've got hundreds, if not thousands, of medical practices around the country. We do lots of work with manufacturing, construction. So really, all industries. We've got some great experience across the country. Lots of hospitality. In terms of what's next for us, well, it's really about making sure that we can bring more of ourselves to those clients. So we've got amazing corporate finance offering, for example. If you're thinking of selling your company in the next few years, that's something that many of our hubs didn't have before, but they do have now. Through our network, and we're able to offer that to more clients. And as I look to the future, I increasingly look to us to be a one-stop shop for SMEs, so that we can help them with their HR challenges, their legal challenges, their opportunities in procurement, technology, whatever it may be. They can come to their trusted advisor, and we will help them with all of those things. So that's the roadmap we're on. Yeah,
because I think it's all coming back to not just helping businesses, which we kind of we've already said about sort of a general accountant might have at one point thought of a historic thing. Now it's a holistic view. Is that the right term to kind of use to kind of say, look, we can actually help in many ways. I mean, that sounds like and I know we've done a lot in 3.5 years, but it seems like a long-term path. How soon are you sort of looking to?
Well, it's already starting. So, there are certain areas of law that we've got qualified solicitors on our team. We're not trying to replace the solicitors out there. But what we've seen is there are areas, particularly in tax, where it's just much more efficient to do it as a combined piece of work. So if you're giving a tax advice that requires you to split your share classes, it's really inefficient to then go off and appoint a separate firm of lawyers to rewrite the shareholders' agreements. And we can just bundle that and do it in one package for the client. And the client feedback where we do that is excellent. They love it. It's better for them. It works out more cost effective. So we're already starting to do it in things like law, in HR. We're able to offer an outsourced managed service for HR, where we'll help you with things like employment law, or your staff handbooks, or how you incentivize your people. So so it's already starting. We need to scale that up and make it available to more of our clients across more of the country, and then we're going to progressively work on that. So it's a 2 to 3 year time horizon, I think.
Okay. Well, that to be fair is still a very quick thing to, and once you're there, it's a huge value to the clients. I think one example that I'm literally working on at the moment, we've got somebody advising something about EBTs. We've got me advising on a buyout. We've got Chaz in corporate finance advising on the valuation side of things. They've got their own lawyers. So already you've got, even in what is a very straightforward, or should be a straightforward transaction, 4 or 5 people that you actually need involved. And in that case, actually, that came to us sort of, they'd already had their team in place. So the only person that within summer was Chaz to do the valuations. But it just shows you that even simple transactions need a variety of different expertise.
They do.
And so the idea that, that you can have that from, for 4 or 5 different individuals, but it's summer and they are all sort of know each other very well, I think is going to be crucial for things going forward. Shall we go on to some quick lightning round, quick questions?
Let's do it.
See how far we get with it. So, what's your single best piece of advice for SME owners right now? The one thing that they should prioritise?
Follow the cash.
I knew you were going to say that. That was a nice and easy one. What's the most misunderstood thing about tax that you hear from business owners?
Tax is bad. Tax is good, right?
Yeah,
Tax
yeah.
is our social responsibility.
Yeah.
It pays for essential services. Yeah, I think paying tax should be seen as a badge of honor.
And in fairness, you could say paying tax, you only pay tax if you make the money.
Yeah,
So you're doing something right if you're paying the tax.
exactly.
We can help you with tax efficiency, but you're doing something right,
Yeah.
as you say, badge of honor.
Tax is good.
Yeah. Looking ahead to the next 12 months, what excites you the most about Summer's future?
It's about all the great work we do with clients. Simple as that.
Good. If you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in the accounting profession, what would that be?
That is a tricky one.
You can do more than one if you want.
Well, but the thing that it might get me into a bit of trouble. Some of these things. I think the biggest challenge for the industry is making sure that the PR around the industry doesn't put off the most talented people from joining it. And there is a lot of there's a lot of challenges that the industry's gone through over the last few years, whether it's kind of audit quality, various kind of scandals and all that kind of stuff. And then senior former politicians saying that AI is going to make us all redundant, right? All those kind of things. I think our industry is a remarkable place to work. I feel incredibly privileged that I've been able to spend 30 years or so, right from getting amazing training at the start, right through to helping with some of the really exciting things that have happened in the economy over the last 30 years. I've traveled the world. And so continuing to attract the brightest and the best into the industry and making sure that they understand how brilliant it is, I think is our biggest challenge. And that's what I would solve if I had a magic wand.
That's a very good one, actually, because I think it comes back to what we've said, the people, the personal, the trust, all of that is what's crucial.
Yeah.
And to actually bring those people in and, bring the next generation through is key, isn't it? So I'm expanding on these. This is meant to be quick fire. I do apologise. Favourite business book or podcast that's influenced your thinking?
So I don't read business books.
But you listen to the Tax Hour every
I listen to the Tax Hour every week, month, day. I'd like to repeat it.
Okay.
So I'm one of those people that learns by doing.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't read books are a pleasure thing for me. I like to go and read a trashy sci-fi novel or something like that.
You've written a book, haven't you?
I
haven't actually spoken to you about this, but you wrote one in COVID, was it?
In COVID, I wrote a young adult fiction book, which I really wrote with a view to my kids reading it. I think there's loads of young adult fiction, sci-fi books, but they don't have very diverse characters in it.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book that had a very diverse character group, and it's just as a legacy for my kids. It's done pretty well. It sold quite a lot of copies.
If it's young adult, my 8-year-old might be a bit too young for it.
Yeah, probably 11 up. Yeah, 11 up.
Mine, little one does love reading. So when she's 11,
yeah, all good books, all good bookstores, as they say.
And finally, what's your vision for the future of Summer over the next 3 to 5 years? Where are we taking this? We've probably kind of covered that, but I'll let you kind of sum it up.
Well, I'll tell you we're going to continue to focus on owner-managed businesses, community-based organisations, not-for-profit. We're going to continue to be at the heart of our communities, fulfilling on our purpose to champion our clients. And we're going to continue to be a great place to work. And really, I want to build on those strengths over the next few years. I think the outcome of that, if I go 5 years in the future, I think we'll be a top 6 accountant, $1 billion or more of revenue, and helping. You talk about 5.5 million clients. I think we'll be helping many hundreds of thousands. So that's where I think we'll be. But as I say, that's just an outcome of doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. And thank you for joining me to talk. This is a little bit of a different podcast. We've gone a little less techie, which I hope maybe is a bit of a relief for some listeners. But thank you very much for joining. And
thank you.
Yeah, it's been great.
Really enjoyed it. And I'm glad you didn't ask me any very technical tax questions.
Steered away from the tax for you. Cheers.